Welcome back. We're going to continue our discussion on the master facility plan for West Grand School District. Obviously, a big component of a master facility plan is the budget and finance component. So we have Martha with us today. Martha, can you talk about kind of general school finance?
Sure. School finance funding, this is for all school districts across Colorado. It's based on a number of students that we have in our district, and that is done with a count in October, as most parents know. And then the state comes, and each school district has something different for their funding per pupil's funding. And so we take our student count, and the state gives us a 5-year average on that. So we take the best of that averaging, and that number then is multiplied by our district funding. And then they include a little bit other fundings in there, like at-risk, the online and the ELL. That all comes into play with our funding also. So that now we come up with a total funding amount. And that funded amount tells us how much we can collect from our property taxpayers, and that's based on our assessed valuation. Then also our specific ownership tax comes into play. And then the difference of what we cannot collect from our local taxpayers, the state subsidizes us with that amount, which is called the state share part.
Gotcha. So I know this K-8 building was built on a bond that the taxpayers passed in 2006, and I know since then there's been some mill levy overrides that we've gone to the taxpayers for. Can you speak to, one, the difference between a bond and a mill levy, but also what those monies were used for?
Yes, we are very grateful. We've had 2 successful overrides for our school district, one in 1997 and the other one in 2021. And they basically, both of those were to help support our staff, to increase the salary schedule, either to bring on another position such as a counselor or a district nurse, things that the school district needed for our students. Mill levy overrides, that is a ballot question. The voters within our school district are able to vote a yes or a no on that question. And that money that we collect is money that stays here in our community. It's collected by our taxpayers. It doesn't go back to the state, doesn't go back to the federal government. It stays within us, and we are able to do what we have told the taxpayers that we would do with that amount of money. There is a limit on mill levies. We cannot just keep going back to the taxpayers and asking for more and more and more. And we are almost maxed out on the amount of money that we can collect from our taxpayers for a mill levy.
Now, Martha, correct me if I'm wrong, like with those mill levy overrides, one of the things, of course, we've already talked about how it has to be on the ballot. Voters have to approve it. But both of the mill levy overrides were for $550,000.
That is correct.
You know, so again, we are very grateful for that local support. And the last mill levy that was passed in 2021, over 80% of that amount went directly to people, to staff salary and benefits. Again, trying to be competitive in our area to help attract and retain high quality staff here at West Grand. And so those mill levy overrides also continue. They are reoccurring funding through those overrides to continue to support, and that's why overrides can pay for people and programs.
And they do not sunset. That's correct. And then we talked a little about what is a bond, correct? A bond is a one-time ballot question also, not a one-time ballot question, but a one-time expense that we go to the taxpayers and ask for money to help us with either construction, maintenance projects, or infrastructure needs. And this will, it's a debt. It's more money than we can absorb with our budget. It's high dollar maintenance issues or construction to a building, and that is what the bonds are. Bonds end. We pay off that debt, and then that is the end of that bond issue at that time.
Now, when I think about like some of the differences, and I already said like how overrides can pay for people and programs, they cannot necessarily, because of our budget and our set amount that we have, it cannot really pay for buildings. But however, a bond cannot pay for people.
That's correct.
We cannot go out for a bond that would pay for salaries and benefits. And so a bond and an override are kind of two separate buckets of funding. And we really can't dip into one for the other, which I think can be frustrating and challenging. And I think there's a lot of maybe just misnomer out there, because there are, we assess mills and a mill levy override versus a mill levy bond.
Correct.
But all kind of funded, again, through our local taxpayers on the ballot, and how we spell it out.
Since you brought up buckets of money that are available, I hear a lot about the BEST grant and what it can be used for. Can you explain what the BEST grant is and how West Grand could utilize it?
Yeah, great question. So the BEST grant is, the acronym stands for Building Excellent Schools Today. And that was created in 2008 here in the state of Colorado. And really, it's that fund of marijuana money that cannot be used for salary and benefits as a federally funded school. But what it can do is build buildings. And so that bucket of money is a grant that we have to apply for. It's very competitive. So it's schools across the state can apply for this BEST grant. It is a matching grant. So we apply for a BEST grant. What could possibly happen is they could say, hey, congratulations, you get the BEST grant for up to, this set amount. However, after being awarded for the BEST grant, then we would go out and ask the taxpayers if they would support their match of the BEST grant. And every school district is different on their match level. And it has to do with our at-risk funding. So for West Grand, our match is not 50-50. It's more like 60 that the school or our community, our tax base would be responsible for, and 40% could be paid through this BEST grant. So again, just thinking, just very basic funding, like a $10 million project, if our taxpayers would say we would pay $6 million, the BEST grant could come in and pay $4 million. And so that is that opportunity that schools have to really try to maximize this matching grant and funds to be able to get some of these projects done.
Can I add, so the name Building Excellent Schools Today, so are those funds limited to new construction, or can they be used for remodels?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And more what they're telling us is they do not support new construction as much, because again, they have a set amount of money that is put aside at the state level. And then so what they are most interested in is actually remodels and renovations. And they have a hierarchy. Like you get so many points for this type of grant, so many points for this type of grant. So in thinking about the BEST grant, one of the highest priorities in that grant is safety and security. And so things like, new carpet, right? That's not going to be something the BEST grant would support, because that's not on their priority list. And so that's definitely something that we are very interested in making sure that we're looking into to see what could possibly help us essentially get the biggest bang for our buck, right? And how do we successfully apply for this grant, and what things do we need to make sure we're including?